The slap echoed through the crowded cafe like a gunshot. Cole Brennan sat frozen, blood trickling from his split lip, while his 8-year-old daughter, Penny, watched with trembling hands wrapped around her hot chocolate. The bully named Derek laughed, circling his prey like a wolf sensing weakness. "What's wrong, old man? Too scared to fight back in front of your little princess?" Every customer looked away. No one moved. But something shifted in Cole's eyes. Something cold. Something calculating. Something that hadn't surfaced in 5 years. His calloused hands, the same hands that built wooden furniture and braided Penny's hair every morning, now rested perfectly still on the table. Derek saw a coward. He didn't see the ghost. He didn't know that those quiet hands had once ended threats far more dangerous than him in the shadows of Fallujah. And he certainly didn't know that touching Penny would be the worst mistake of his life. Saturday morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Rosie's cafe, painting golden rectangles across worn wooden tables and checkered floors. The smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls drifted through the air, mixing with the gentle hum of conversation from the dozen or so customers scattered throughout the small establishment. An elderly couple shared a newspaper in the corner booth, their coffee cups leaving rings on the laminated menu they'd stopped reading years ago. A young mother wrestled with a toddler and a stack of pancakes near the back, her patience wearing thin, but her smile still intact. This was the heartbeat of small-town America, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody and strangers were noticed immediately. Cole Brennan sat in his usual booth by the window, the one with a cracked vinyl seat that nobody else ever wanted, watching his daughter Penny carefully arrange the marshmallows in her hot chocolate into what she called a snowman family. Her small fingers worked with intense concentration, tongue poking out slightly as she positioned each puffy white piece with surgical precision. The morning light caught the blonde in her hair, turning it almost golden, and Cole felt the familiar ache in his chest that came from loving something so completely it terrified him. At 45 years old, Cole looked exactly like what he appeared to be, a working man with calloused hands and tired eyes. His flannel shirt was faded but clean, his jeans worn soft from years of sawdust and sweat. There were scars on his hands that he told people came from woodworking accidents, and that was true enough for the recent ones. The older scars, the ones that ran along his knuckles and up his forearms, those had different stories. Stories he never told. The gray streaking through his dark hair had appeared almost overnight 5 years ago, right around the time his world collapsed into itself. Friends said it made him look distinguished. Cole thought it made him look exactly as old as he felt. He ran a small woodworking shop on the edge of town now, crafting custom furniture for neighbors and the occasional city client who wanted something rustic and authentic. His hands, which had once disassembled and reassembled weapons in complete darkness, now shaped oak and walnut and cherry into tables and chairs and cribs. It was honest work, quiet work, the kind of work that let him be home when Penny got off the school bus every afternoon. That let him pack her lunches and help with her homework and read her stories until she fell asleep. Penny looked up from her marshmallow creation with a gap-toothed grin that still managed to stop Cole's heart every single time. She had her mother's eyes, that impossible shade of green that looked like spring leaves catching sunlight, and her mother's stubborn chin. Rachel's chin, the same chin that had argued with him about everything, from what color to paint the nursery to whether he should accept that final deployment. She had won that argument. She always won those arguments with her logic and her love, and that look she gave him that said she knew exactly who he was and loved him anyway. And then, 3 months after he came home from his last mission, a drunk driver ran a red light on Highway 12 at 2:30 in the afternoon, and Rachel was gone just like that. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. No final words. She had been on her way to pick up Penny from daycare. Cole had been in the garage building a rocking horse for their daughter's 3rd birthday. He had been sanding the curve of the neck when the doorbell rang. And somehow he had known, even before he opened the door and saw the 2 officers standing there with their hats in their hands. He had known, and his whole world had ended between one heartbeat and the next. The rocking horse still sat in the corner of his workshop, unfinished. He couldn't bring himself to complete it, and he couldn't bring himself to throw it away. Rachel would have understood. Rachel had understood everything about him, even the parts he tried to hide. "Daddy, look." Penny held up her cup triumphantly. The daddy snowman is the biggest because he has to protect the baby snowman from the hot chocolate ocean. Something cracked in Cole's chest, the way it always did when Penny said things like that without knowing how deeply they cut. He reached across the table and tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear, his rough fingers impossibly gentle against her soft cheek. "That's a very smart daddy snowman," he said quietly. "He's lucky to have such a good artist making sure he's strong enough for the job." The bell above the cafe door jingled, and Cole's eyes flicked automatically toward the entrance. An old habit from another life. One he couldn't seem to shake no matter how many years of peace piled up behind him. His body registered the threat assessment before his conscious mind caught up. 3 men, young and aggressive. The leader displaying dominance behavior, the followers showing signs of intoxication and nervousness. In another life, Cole would have cataloged exit points, improvised weapons, optimal engagement distances. Now he simply noted and returned his attention to his daughter. Old habits die hard, but they can be managed. The 3 men walked in, their voices too loud for the sleepy Saturday morning atmosphere. The one in front was young, maybe late 20s, with the kind of swagger that came from never having faced real consequences. He wore expensive sneakers that had never seen an honest day's work and a gold chain that caught the light when he moved. His face had that soft, entitled look of someone who had always gotten what he wanted, one way or another. His 2 companions flanked him like satellites, smaller and quieter, their eyes darting around the room with the nervous energy of followers who weren't quite sure they wanted to be following anymore, but didn't know how to stop. Cole turned back to his daughter, but something in his peripheral vision kept tracking the 3 men as they approached the counter. Maggie, the young waitress who always snuck penny extra whipped cream, stood behind the register with her customer service smile firmly in place. She couldn't have been more than 22, working her way through community college one double shift at a time. Cole had built a bookshelf for her apartment last month and refused to let her pay for it. She reminded him of his younger sister. "Hey, sweetheart," the man in front said, leaning against the counter with practiced casualness. "How about you give me your number along with that coffee?" His voice carried across the small cafe, designed to be heard, designed to establish territory. Maggie's smile flickered but held. "Just the coffee today, sir. What size would you like?" The man laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Playing hard to get. I like that." He reached across the counter and touched her arm, his fingers lingering on her skin. Maggie stepped back, her face going pale. "Sir, please don't touch me." Cole's hand stopped moving. Penny was telling him something about school, about her friend who had a new puppy, but the words washed over him without registering. His attention had narrowed to a single point. The space between the man's hand and Maggie's arm. The fear in her eyes. The way she had nowhere to go with the counter behind her. Cole stood up slowly, the motion drawing the attention of half the cafe. He wasn't particularly tall, maybe 6 feet in his work boots, but there was something about the way he moved that made him seem larger than his physical space. He walked toward the counter with the unhurried pace of a man who had learned that speed wasn't nearly as important as intention. "Excuse me," he said, his voice soft, almost gentle. The lady said no. The man turned, irritation flashing across his features before settling into amusement. "Mind your own business, old man. This is between me and the pretty girl." Cole positioned himself between Maggie and the 3 men, his back to the counter. "She asked you not to touch her. That makes it my business. That makes it everyone's business." The cafe had gone completely silent. "I think maybe you boys should get your coffee somewhere else today." The man stepped closer, close enough that Cole could smell the stale alcohol on his breath. "You think you can tell me what to do?" Cole didn't blink. "I know what you are, and I'm asking you nicely to leave." The slap came fast. Pain exploded across Cole's face. He tasted blood. Gasps rippled through the room. "Daddy!" Penny cried. Cole turned slowly back, and he made a choice. He chose to stay still. He chose to bleed. He chose to let this man think he had won. "What's wrong, old man?" Derek sneered. "Too scared to fight back in front of your little princess?" "My daughter is watching," Cole said quietly. Derek scoffed. "So what? So, I need her to learn the right lessons today. You're going to leave. You're going to walk out that door. And you're going to think carefully about the kind of man you want to be." Derek laughed. "You don't tell me what to do." He grabbed Cole's shoulder. That was when Cole moved. 2 seconds. A twist. A drop. Derek hit the floor, gasping. Cole's fingers rested lightly on his throat. "I gave you a choice," Cole said softly. "You chose wrong." His eyes held something ancient. Some people used to call me the ghost. I spent 15 years making problems disappear. And right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and a very educational experience about human anatomy. Derek whispered, I'm sorry. You're scared, Cole said. And scared is the only language you understand. Daddy, Cole released him. You're going to apologize. You're going to leave. And you're never coming back. Derek fled. Cole returned to his booth. Penny stared at him, silent. Daddy, your lip is bleeding. It's just a scratch, baby. But her eyes didn't leave the red stain. Sirens soon followed. The sheriff arrived. Cole was arrested. Penny screamed and clung to him. I promise, Cole whispered. I will come back. 2 hours later, a phone call changed everything. Colonel Harrison Brooks arrived. 20 minutes after that, Cole was free. By evening, Penny was back in his arms. You came back, she whispered. Always. 1 week later, they returned to Rosie's cafe. Life went on. Stronger. Kinder. And Cole Brennan sat with his daughter, no longer a ghost, no longer a weapon. Just a father. And that was enough.